really, you know, guys generally are much more focused on the physical in a certain sense. Now, I'll just give you an example for this. I guess we'll be tape, we can edit it afterwards. We're speaking bluntly. There was an article that they did in a paper years ago. They had it in a magazine about a study of a gigolo, okay, a male prostitute. And this gigolo was explaining to the reporter there what he does. Right? What's his name? So what he does is he goes and he takes this woman and he meets this woman. He goes and takes her out to dinner. He develops a relationship with her, and you know, and once done, they have a whole relationship, and then you know things are good. They go back and they do what they do. Now, I'm speaking very bluntly, but when a guy goes to a prostitute, he's not trying to develop a relationship with her. He's not having like, can we speak about Nietzsche? He's not doing any of that stuff. Why? Because a guy, generally, a woman has a much more sensitive ability towards the emotional level. Okay? And that's why sometimes guys, it becomes a problem because they become very focused on the visual, they become focused on the physical much more. Now, I'm not saying that's not important for a woman, also the physical, but a woman generally has more of a connection also to the emotional level. Men, because they are very centered on visual, they sometimes get stuck, which your friend could have gotten really stuck and screwed his whole life up. And I want to tell you, I know people who were in your friend's situation and they're 50 years old, whatever, and they're still not married. Okay, because that happens very often with some of the guys where they don't see past level one. They get so obsessed with it, and in today's society, it's hard not to also because you're bombarded by it in terms of commercials and everything else. So they get stuck there, and it becomes a real problem. So it's a great thing that he realized that, and then his way of probably seeing her physically also changed also. She now sees her that she's very attractive. Great, very good. Any other thoughts, questions, comments, feedback? Anybody? Nicole, you got some idea? Put you on the spot here.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Actually, what's just going through my mind is I feel like, as far as giving, that makes sense, which is why parenthood would be like so powerful. But in my head, I was just thinking, like, there has to be obviously it has to be reciprocal. And I was just wondering if there was like what in Judaism there was that would
Make sure it's reciprocal.
Yeah, which is why I hadn't said this out loud, and I was just
That's
wondering.
good. That's what I wanted to bring it out. Thank you. So it's a very, very good question. And you know, usually in the Jewish circles, when a couple gets married, so they actually go and they learn usually before with the rabbi, with the rebbitzin, you know. I've taught a lot of people who get married, and what we do is, you know, there's times where everyone's together, but there's times where they're separate, and I will discuss with the future husband how he has to go and relate in a positive, giving way to his wife. And the Shepherd will discuss with the future bride how she's to relate to her husband. So what happens is we both come with the same perspective that we're giving to each other. And so since each one, you could focus on the rights or responsibilities in life. Like, you know, what's due to me, or what am I supposed to contribute? So what we do is we talk to both the husband and the wife about what they're supposed to, how they're supposed to look at, from a Jewish perspective, what the giving entails. And then they both are doing it because it's the right thing to do. And so they're both hopefully on that path. That's the first step. The first step is giving the information and the direction the Torah gives, that God has given us, and how we relate to each other. We share with husband and wife separately. And I don't tell, like, you know, right when I was going with a couple recently. So when I got with the husband, I was reading something in Maimonides showing him how a husband should honor his wife more than himself, and all these different things. And then when it came to the part about the wife's obligation, I said, okay, I'm skipping that. What are you skipping it for? I said, because if I tell it to you, then I'm worried you're going to go back and say, hey, you're not doing what my mommy said here, you know. That's not the point. The point is what are you supposed to do? So we share with each one of them what they're supposed to do. And then in a normative situation, normal people, when you're giving to the other person, normally they give back. If they don't, as I said before, then there's a problem that's not normative. Then they would be counseling because they're not. If somebody is if I'm giving, if the husband's giving to the wife, and her response is, you know, she says, here's a diamond ring, here's flowers, here's all this thing, and she's like, great, just you leave me alone, go to the country club. I want to have no relationship. That's a problem that needs therapy. That's something that's not. It's not normative. So the two answers to the question are we teach both what responsibilities to each other, and both have. And the second point is that in normal relationships, when someone gives to you, you're going to give back. And if you don't, then it's just a fundamental problem.
So does Judaism have a view of why, not obviously infidelity happens, it shouldn't, but it does. Does Judaism have a view of like theoretically why it happens?
Yeah, because they're two levels, because they're not relating together in the way they should. If they were, it wouldn't come to that. If the wife felt loved, the husband felt the wife was appreciated, and they appreciated each other, then they wouldn't look outside the circle. Now, sometimes what happens in society is that sometimes, you know, we have a very open society today, so it presents some other issues, you know, because, you know, you could be at a workplace and, you know, and get very friendly with other people. There's sometimes some danger with that. But generally, the first step is to make sure that the bond is really, really genuine. You know, that it's just you and me. Right? And in Jewish relationship, that's we put everything around that to make sure the relationship is just husband and wife. Even the point where we minimize, you know, contact with our friends. We make things exclusively one for the other. And so we do put some defense around it, but also it's emotionally that we feel that we're giving to each other in a way that just really maybe.
So I've heard before people say stuff like, well, she's not the woman I married, or he's not the man I married. So like initially maybe what all these things meant, you know, the wedding, so like you said, you know, after you're married, you get comfortable, you might not read all of the something over there might not be the same after the wedding as it was.
So,
what's the whole, how do you know what's true?
So it's a very good question, because you hear it all the time. Right. So what I'm saying is, first of all, one of the reasons people say it because they really never discuss this. Many times, you can't believe how often it happens, they really never got into this. Neither themselves thinking about what their values are, and certainly not what the other person's values, they might feel their own values. So problem A is that people sometimes do not know the person in this area to make it hard. That's problem one. Okay? No, you don't agree with that?
Or even in themselves on the height of them?
Right. Many people don't.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just saying, how do you know what's true? I mean, the person might give you all kinds of, like, you know, I want to do this, that, all that, 10 things, all that, you know, whatever. I mean, and you believe them. You're like, oh wow, this person really wants what I want, you know. Or is he just saying that figures, you know, maybe that's what I want?
Oh, you say.
You know what I'm
You're
saying?
saying in a case where you've spoken to the person, you tried, and the person misled the other person somehow.
Well, but you didn't know at the time. Like,
Right.
how do you know that these things before the wedding are going to continue after the wedding partner? And after you already know, okay, this person, you know, now we're together, there's no more work to be done to pursue each other. So,
Right.
like, how do you know that this is going to last? Or how do you know what's true? You know what I mean? Like, it's
Okay, I understand, but it's a good question. So I say this. There's two parts to that. One is, yes, theoretically possible someone could fool someone. I don't know why they want to do that because they got to live with this person now. But theoretically, someone could tell, yeah, I want to have 10 kids, and then the person will like, oh, are you out of your mind? You know, so they're going to have a little bit of a problem there. So it could be someone could fool someone, and then they're going to run into problems. Why someone would do that, I don't know, but it could be possible. But what I was telling you also, sometimes people on a subconscious level really know what's going on with the other person. And as I said to you before, sometimes people marry a person and say, listen, I really didn't know X, Y, and Z. And I would translate that sometimes saying, you didn't know on a conscious level. Not always. Sometimes a person is fooled. And in our case, a person is fooled. And that's why we do believe in the idea of possibly divorcing. It's really some problem. We don't encourage it. But the idea is sometimes a person can be fooled, but very often, subconsciously, the person did know certain things, just didn't really consciously. And then I say you go into the second level, which is that you realize that you may have to just work things through. If you are willing to work it together,